So one of the biggest mantra is focus on the quality and not on the quantity.
The thing about the spectrum is also each child is different. So there is such a huge number of both challenges and solutions.
Unfortunately, you see the diagnosis first and then the child.
So it all depends. As a parent, I would say try a mainstream schools first, which has an inclusive setup. Look for things like a SEN room, the presence of a special educator, whether therapies are available, how trained the teacher is, whether they have other special children in that school, that they've had the experience. That is very important, that experience.
So here we have with us today our professional and our parent. This is what makes the Dolly Show unique. So our professional, we have Sarika Shah with us. She is a special educator. And we have our parent, Beverly Thayyil, and she's a mother as well as a special educator. So yes, welcome to the Dolly Show, navigating through autism, one story at a time. So yes, Sarika ma'am, a question to you first and foremost. Special education. What is the importance and role of special education of a child with autism? Let's start with that.
So first of all, I'd like to thank you, Dolly, for having us here, having me here for the Dolly Show. Definitely, it's a great opportunity to spread the awareness that I like to do. And you've asked a question that's really very special to me, and it's called as special education and autism. Generally, what happens about this is it's a field that's not much explored. Reason being, as we were discussing, that every era there is some new disability that you discover. So before autism, it was learning disability. So unfortunately, what happened in learning disability, the special education, it starts at 5 years post, when the child is almost ready for formal education. The similar pattern continues for autism. However, with my practice, I have seen that a child in the spectrum should be provided special education at the age of around 3.5. That's a good time to start, because special education is something still not explored, that it's a very vital service when it comes to autism. The reason being, Dolly, the thinking process, the thinking part, the cognitive development is something that we are still not looking into. And with any cognitive development, how early you start makes a huge difference.
Correct.
So that's what special education is for autism. As we know, with any disability, you will need a special education educator to bridge that gap. It's like, when do you start?
Correct.
So start early. Start at 3.5. There are so many myths around it, that my child can't sit, my child can't talk. How do I teach? But remember, communication is not always about talking. You can develop pointing, and that's also communication. So it's vital. And early intervention is something that is a must.
So basically, education is a must for every human being. So be it a neurodiverse or be it a neurotypical. So education goes for everybody. So that's the reason we have come up with this topic, because it is very important to know how and what are the ways, the correct ways that these children, they need to be guided. Parents need to be guided correctly. There are a lot of myths, be it schooling, be it what is the correct kind of education that needs to be given. So that's what, we want to bring up today on this podcast. Now coming to our parents, it's a special combination. We have a parent who is a parent and who is a special educator as well. So you took up, how was your journey, as in how did you get into special education?
So my son, who is currently on the spectrum, he was born in 2008. And at that particular time, we were based in Dubai, UAE, and there was not a lot of information about this current condition. And it is very, very difficult for a parent to put together these various facets of any child being on the spectrum, because he had the language delay, and as well as we were seeing signs of the sensory issues that he was having. He was also having issues with frequent meltdowns. And for a parent who's experiencing parenting a child for the first time, this is really very difficult to put all these conditions together and realize that this is, a condition called autism. And at that particular time, the starting part for any parent is a pediatrician. Pediatricians were also not aware. They were gaining information about this mysterious condition, and there was very little known about it. And slowly, as he got diagnosed, I remember, Dr. Vitesh Udani, who diagnosed him, he wrote 3 things on his diagnosis sheet. He said this boy must have a special educator, he must have a speech therapist, and he must have an occupational therapist. He was 5 at the time that we received the diagnosis, because it was so difficult at that particular stage to get a professional to give the diagnosis. And I remember him writing this. I knew what a speech therapist was, because we were able to find one. The speech therapist put us in touch with an occupational therapist. But the special educator, I remember circling it and saying, what does this person do? And then when we came to India, it was again the same scenario in schools. So the teachers absolutely had no idea. I remember her taking out her phone and Googling Spectrum while sitting and talking to me. So she put us in charge. Luckily, the school that he was present in had a SEN department. And they said, oh, don't worry, he will settle down in 6 months. Still no sign of a special educator here. It was only later, once the exams and the whole academic process started, and he scored very, very low marks in certain subjects. And I remember sitting outside the coordinator and principal's office and shivering, because I knew that this was bad news. I knew that it had something to do with autism. I didn't know the connection and why he was not able to absorb, and why he was not able to do those exams like a regular child in school, a neurotypical child in school. And the professionals at that time, the principal, etc., they also didn't put it together. So they just asked me, what can we do to support?
Oh, wow. At least
they asked that question.
Yeah.
They asked that question. Yeah.
So, but actually there were 2 clueless people sitting in that room, because
I like the way you describe it.
Yeah.
2 clueless people.
They didn't really have a clue, because autism was just entering the schools and being diagnosed at that time that he started in Indian schools. And at least they were far ahead of the curve, because they at least had a special educator and a SEN room and shadow teachers, etc. at that time. And we did have a lot of trouble finding ways and techniques for him to learn in school, which is, and at that particular time, and I still feel today, there are a very, very few special educators that have trained in this particular field. And so I had to just train, because it was either that or he would be removed from school. And that's how the journey began.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's reminding me of my journey. Wow.
Yeah.
Just
So it was, I guess you can say, a divine accident.
So coming to Sarika ma'am, in a school setup, how do you feel, like Beverly ma'am said, that previously there were no proper ways, and they didn't know how to go about. So how do you see the change from that particular time up till today? What have you seen? Are there any changes? Or do you think the scenario is the same?
So, what I would say is, it's my point of view. Again, Nadi, I might not be, I have no statistics to validate it, but I can just share from my experience what I see. There is not much shift in terms of the quality of life of a child, an autistic child in a mainstream school. Okay. Where at least as, Bev was describing so beautifully, like there are two people who have absolutely no idea. No, now it's not the scenario. The principal, the vice principal, everybody is aware of autism. Okay, you see a child and like, I'll tell you about my experience. I was not a special ed. I was an IT professional before, right? And
this is interesting.
And then post 10 years having a great career as an IT professional, I wanted to contribute to the society. That's where my sister suggested that, why don't you take up a B.Ed course or a course that would make you special ed. I said, what special ed? So when she said, when she circled that special ed, it wasn't news to me. And I'm telling you, till date, when people ask me what's a profession, and I tell them I'm a special ed, and if I see a question mark, I say, like,
forget it.
Don't worry. I didn't know that, there's something called as a special ed. So yeah, this particular special education, me being a special educator, still it was a very new thing. Not many people know about it. Right. So from that journey to where our question was about school. So now that when I'm in that world, now again, I'll tell you why autism is different and why so much, why we face so much challenge. Now, I did in multiple disability. So when I did in multiple disability, I'll tell you about myself that there was one paper on autism where I failed. Whereas in other papers, I passed. Now, we were in a special school. We were given access to all disabilities, go and check and observe and all. And I used to go and observe an autistic child. And he looked perfectly normal to me. He was busy in his own world, not disturbing anybody. Now, as a person who's just learning, when I see a CP child, I see a cerebral palsy child, I see there is some deformity, somewhere I have to help. When I see a visual impaired, and when I go to that autistic child, I'm like, what do I do? So I think the first step in the society, that deception comes from how they look. Right? So now what happens is, though you know now that if they have autism, okay, they look like us. Now that awareness has started coming. They look like us, they have autism, but still their needs are very different than what we call as the neurotypicals. Now, this awareness is there. Now the needs are different. But the problem comes is, how do you address to those needs? So now, as a principal and all, like, I'm not generalizing it, right? There are many great principals who are doing a great job. But overall, and we see, when we're talking, we're not only talking about Mumbai, right?
Correct. We're talking
we're talking to the villages of India as well. Like, it's for everybody.
Correct.
Now, what is happening? The awareness is there. Oh, there is something called as autism. Zaruri nahi hai ki wo alag dikhe. There should be some physical deformity that should be seen. What is now people have to understand is, as I keep on saying, that autism, first of all, is not a disability.
Correct.
It's a personality type.
Yeah. It's a different abilities one we
have. So now the schools, what they have to do is, now they have autistic children coming. They need to have more autism awareness trainings in their school. As simple as start of the year, when you sit with your general ed teachers, you tell them, like, look, you have an autistic child in the class. There are chances he will face, dysregulation. It could be because of loud sound, somebody crying,
correct.
Somebody throwing things, teacher wearing a perfume that is not going well with him.
True.
Those kind of things. And then when you have such a thing and you see the start, we use the word meltdown, right? You see the start of the meltdown. Just remove him from that. You don't have to do anything else. Those signs, Dolly, if you start picking up those signs.
But don't you think those signs should be known to the ones who are catering to them?
Exactly. That's fine. That's the awareness about.
You're still telling me in schools, still there is no training that is given to teachers.
Again, as we said, Dolly, we cannot generalize.
Yeah, we're not generalizing here, but according to your perception is what we are.
The percentage of that awareness is still on the lower side, I would say. It has started, the ball has started rolling, but it's not
long
momentum yet. Right? Like, if you now in a school, you go and you tell anybody, but the student in your class has learning disability. The teachers very well know what to do. But still, you go and most of the time, you see, the general ed teachers are scared. They don't know how to handle autism. Trust me, when there is a new intake when I start working with a new student, I even have to be very careful. It's not easy working with them. But it's still not easy for me. I need to learn. I need to, monitor that child. So we cannot expect the general ed teachers, but little bit awareness about who you're dealing with, would make a huge difference.
So that brings me to the next question, which is, it's a little, you can give your opinion. This is nothing that we are, what do you think? Homeschooling is good or a school setup? I have had parents. I just met one off lately. She has done homeschooling for her son, and now he is an IT graduate, and he's doing really well. I've also met parents who have done normal schooling for children. So according to Beverly ma'am, what do you think? What is your opinion? It's your opinion.
Correct. So I'll give you my experiences of other parents who I know in my circle. So in terms of it all depends on the child's comfort level. Correct. And what he's able to learn from the school setup. So if he is comfortable in terms of his behavior, and if the students and the teachers have the know-how and the acceptance of an autistic child in their midst, then if the environment is comfortable, then a school setup makes absolute sense, in the sense that he gets to interact with the children and members of our society. And members of our society also get to interact with a neurodiverse child. And they slowly become more accepting of different types of mindsets and people in our society, and they have every right to be there. I have another parent who also decided whose child was in a mainstream school, and he had a lot of behavioral difficulties, especially with the setting, because in a mainstream school, classrooms often have a particular temperature. It's either the windows are open, so there's noise, the children are screaming, or the teachers have a particular noise level. There are sights, smells, sounds, all which do not agree with all children with autism. And so she decided at a particular time that homeschooling would be better. So she tried it. COVID came up. Okay. She tried the experience of homeschooling, and she says, my child is calmer, he's better, he's better regulated because he's in the home environment, and she has used sports, etc., to ensure that he gets that social contact. So she is comfortable with the idea. At the same time, my son has gone through the regular mainstream school, the ICSE setup. He's just finished his 10th ICSE exams. And he was comfortable, or rather we were able to meet the challenges, because it's not only the sensory issues, and the child must be able to, grasp concepts, cope up with the curriculum. But there's also the thing is of how he's treated by the teachers as well as by his fellow colleagues, because there are things like bullying, etc. We had to go through those experiences, and we faced those challenges. So it all depends. As a parent, I would say try a mainstream schools first, which has an inclusive setup. Look for things like, a SEN room, the presence of a special educator, whether therapies are available, how trained the teacher is, whether they have other special children in that school, that they've had the experience. That is very important, that experience. How comfortable do they make those children feel, and how your child is doing. If he's happy, then you don't have to look anywhere else. But if you feel there's a discomfort, you're not getting that support, then look at the idea of homeschooling as an alternative. There is no one size fits all.
Correct.
Yeah. Perfectly answered. Which brings us to the next question. So, special education, for that matter, what is I know we can't pin it, but what is the best way a child on the autism spectrum learns? I know all children are different, but some kind of a sort of a guideline or something.
So, Dolly, the main thing, that we have to deliver to a child in the spectrum, the biggest challenge where we face is concepts. Correct. Right? rote learning comes easy to them because they're visual learners. You can train them with rote learning. But concepts is something that's a challenge. And once you start developing it in the right way, you will see that it's like a pyramid. Once you make the base strong, they keep on compounding on it. Now, what I have used in my practice is teach them the concepts from their environment. I'll give you a very small example. When kids are little, they're taught about myself, right? And there is like how we go for any neurotypical, right? It's like, I am a boy, I'm 7 years old, I live in this, blah, blah, blah,
All
blah,
of
blah.
us have written that copy.
Right. And that's how we are taught. You get a family picture and you stick it. And now with our autistic population, somehow, if you keep on saying that, it will get into them. They will start writing. The problem is, if you ask him, your dad is a boy or a girl, he might not be able to say that because he's just learned it in that format. He doesn't even know the difference between a boy and girl till then as a concept. So when you use things from their environment to teach, so what you can do, the same book, like what I've done is I've improvised that particular essay or whatever we write at a younger age as a album. So it's like an all about me book. So this is me, I am. And then you show the contrast. There's a boy and a girl. So if it's a boy, you only highlight on the boy. So the child sees the contrast. So the one important thing, key takeaway from this is for parents who are listening is contrast. Show them the contrast. Okay. If you're saying that this is a boy, then show them that there is a girl, but you're not a girl, you're a boy. Contrast. Second, bring things from their environment. Right? So when you're teaching them, I'm 7 years old, bring their birthday picture with candles on it. So they know, oh, when I say 7 years old, it's somehow related to this particular event. So even when gradually they grow up and I'm teaching them nouns or I'm teaching them counting or let's say even higher grade when you're teaching them math, bring things from their life. So when I'm teaching like addition and they have two, brothers, sisters. So Atharv has 5 chocolates, Arav has 2, Mama gave 5 to Atharv, 5 to Arav. How many in total? Bring things from their thing. Teach them only things that they can see. Like sitting in India and teaching them about avocado won't help. Bring local things that they can see around. Oh, for ostrich. For some, they can get it. But rather than you use an owl, rather than an ostrich, which at least you can show them in the Indian. So these are the few things. So to sum it up, show them a contrast while you're teaching. Teach them concepts from their environment. And the third thing is show them the local things. Like when I make the community helper book, okay, Dolly, where I also take care that, generally we have these books coming from abroad, say Singapore and all. Now you have a police officer who's dressed differently. Now I'm living in Mumbai, the police here wears a khaki clothes. But if I'm in Kolkata, they wear a white uniform. So you have to be very careful. Like you show a khaki uniform in Mumbai and to a boy in Calcutta and say this is police. That information doesn't help. So you have to even think of those things that he will see around. And that will really help. Like my kids, they learn grammar. They internalize it so well from their life, So yeah, these 3 things you have to remember. Yeah, very important.
Great to know. Okay. I would like to know, supposedly, I give you a situation wherein it's your first day. It's your classroom first day. And you know there is a child who is going to be.
So I'm a teacher, you mean to say?
Yeah. So it's your, supposedly you are the teacher and there is a child who is on the spectrum. How would a first day typically be from the start till the end? How would it unfold?
For the child in the spectrum?
Yes.
And my observation as a teacher.
Yeah. How would you go around teaching that child? How would, what would the course of action be the entire day?
So the first thing is, if I know I'm a class teacher and I'm having a child in the spectrum, the first thing I would do is, before entering the class, before my school starts, I've been allocated that child, I will know everything about that child. Probably I will call the parent, talk about his likes, dislikes, what triggers him. I'll get familiar with the child. Now, if the child is new, I wouldn't have that access. But if the child is moving from another grade, I'll talk to the other teacher who was with him. So I will, for that particular child, I will do my homework when I enter as a class teacher. Now, what happens is when I do my homework, I know the child. Plus, the awareness trainings, which the school generally conducts for overall teachers, what signs of, trigger that you see in the child. Now, probably, they'll see, again, autism is a spectrum, right, Dolly? You have varied kids. You have kids, though it's a myth, they say autism mein baat nahi karte, but no, there are kids who like to talk. So, depending on your child's personality, but I will definitely ensure that even if I want to involve my child, because I know at the back of my mind that my child, whichever level he is having his sensory challenges because it's first day.
Correct.
He is having his anxiety because it's first day. Though some of the classmates are familiar, though the shadow teacher is familiar if he has one, still he has that first day anxiety. And don't we have that?
Yeah, definitely we do.
We have first day anxieties, right? As a teacher, even I would have a first day anxiety. So once I know that and I want to involve the child, I will not ask him difficult questions. I will involve him in things where I know he will be successful or he will succeed. And he doesn't have to think much. So that is how I will handle. But the most important part in this would be my research or my familiarity with the child before I enter the class. That will work like wonders.
Great. So coming to you, ma'am, how has your journey in regards to your son been?
His journey in school has been very, very challenging.
Okay.
I will not lie or I will not sugarcoat.
We don't want sugarcoating.
Yes, absolutely. And he did not experience so much of the behavioral aspects and the sensory aspects of life as a child with autism, but he experienced what Sarika says, the understanding of concepts. And he had a very, very difficult time answering exams, understanding what the question had been asked, not only in an exam, but when the teacher asked in class. To add to that, he also had difficulties in social communication because many of them experienced a language delay. So because his language was delayed, and to add to that, his social communication, it was very difficult for him to make friends. To his credit, in grade 10, he managed one friend who came for his birthday, and I think that was the biggest success of his grade 10, more than all the marks, etc. And so you can imagine with this, and then we had to train him. We first had to understand and train ourselves as parents, because this is a very, very mysterious condition. Nobody will, without knowing that it is autism, will put together a child who has a language delay with suddenly sensory issues and meltdowns and put it together. You are very often as a parent struggling with just one aspect, maybe the stimming or the hand flapping, or you're trying to work on the concept. So it's very difficult as a parent to work on everything at the same time. So there are delays in their development. And then when you go through school, it is only literally when you have the support of many, many people. You have to have the support of your family helping, because it is such a big challenge. You also have to have support from school, right from the top, from the principal saying, yes, we will support this child till he finishes school. And then it trickles down to the teachers. When the teacher sees that the senior management supports, and then with the help of training, because she needs training herself, the special educator also has to give her those inputs. So that she's able to deal with the child, not only when he's in the classroom, but also when he's answering the exam. And the answer paper comes, there has to be some kind of different way in which they're assessing the child. Because remember, they have these gaps in terms of concepts, etc. So all those challenges are there, and we've had to face them slowly, one after the other. The thing about the spectrum is also each child is different. So So there is such a huge number of both challenges and solutions. But luckily, it is much better than it was years ago. Parents are, now a lot of children are going to the system. They're entering mainstream school mainly. School managements have to face up to the fact that, these children are coming in.
Correct.
And we have to deal with them. The parents have paid the fees. Now they expect the child to go to the school.
Correct.
So how do you accommodate them and all that? It's much better now than it was years ago.
That is so good to know.
Yeah.
Because today when my daughter goes to school, now she's able to identify if there is a child on the spectrum, and she says now in each class we have seen that there is one child, one child on the spectrum. And these teachers are doing a really good thing of pairing up with them with one child whom they are comfortable with.
Correct.
Budding, and that child is also learning.
Yes, true.
And this child is also developing.
Correct.
Which is a very good combination I saw in a school setup.
Right.
Because my daughter comes and tells me, Mama, there is this friend of mine, there's this girl I saw, I have made friends with her. If she's comfortable, I will be with her. But yeah, I'm trying to help her, Mama. So which was a really nice thing that I, and then she said, yeah, Mama, in other classes also teachers are trying to, buddy them with other children so that they are helped.
Correct.
So I liked this concept of lately, which I heard.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're seeing really good changes.
So what you said about the buddies, it's like I remember in one of the school of Mumbai, a first grader, the mother was the shadow teacher, and this little girl, first grader, totally non-verbal. Okay, you'll feel that she's like not in the classroom, but she loved the attention of her classmates. So I remember visiting her during lunch breaks. Mom was sitting in one corner. She was sitting happily eating, and around her table, all her classmates used to sit around her.
Oh.
And when it was PE period, it was their responsibility. Like they took that responsibility to take her, take her hand, help her line up, and take to the PE. So mom, the shadow teacher, used to just follow them, but she was totally included by the classmates.
So nice.
Yeah.
It's giving me goosebumps. So cute.
And that's the reason, Dolly, the earlier the better. Now what happens? They grew up from kindergarten. They've seen like your daughter. They've seen these neurodiverse children in their class. So somehow it's not new to them. Now suddenly if a 6th grader you introduce to a child in the spectrum, they've not seen anybody before.
Correct.
So for them acceptance becomes difficult.
True.
So it's all the more important that be in a school from where your child started your lower KGs, so that the acceptance and is there throughout.
Correct. It's also very protective because
they become very protective.
Yeah.
They become very protective
Yes,
about
I
them.
remember there was this. I was with this child who was 5 years in preschool, and I remember he was being bullied because, despite the shadow teacher being there, because he was non-verbal and on the spectrum, and needed his space to self-regulate, etc. And I remember this young girl who was there at the side, and any child who would go to hit him, and she would push that child away. And if she could see that if he started, stimming and flapping his hands and all that, she would quickly go and give him a scrunchie or something like that, a sensory toy to hold, and follow him to check where is he, because the good thing is this preschool had a separate room, an empty room, a quiet room. And we would often have to take him there so that he could calm down, self-regulate and all that. And she would go to check, is he there? Is he in class? Is he listening, participating in the activity? Has he gone home? So it's very nice to have.
And if we don't think about just the autistic child and just think about these buddies, what kind of individuals they will grow up in the society? They will be so like your daughter, as you said. She'll be so accepting. She'll be, imagine an adult, when she becomes an adult, she will be so accepting.
Because even now in the workspace, what is happening is adults who are autistic are very, they're becoming more open to the fact that they are autistic and they need those supportive in the workspace.
I think it's vice versa.
Exactly. It's not just one way.
Not just the individual who's on the spectrum needs to be given all this training.
Yeah.
The people,
Yes.
On the other side as well need to be given all this awareness so that they are prepared to, handle it.
Exactly.
Correct.
So it has to be vice versa is when everything can...
And that's why we say inclusion works both ways.
Correct.
Inclusion works both ways.
So, yes, definitely.
So now one question of mine, which is, I have got a lot of calls from parents saying that our children, once the school gets to know that the child is on the spectrum, they not directly but indirectly, don't admit the child into the school, saying that we are full. On the other hand, in the same school, if you give a call saying that, my child is neurotypical and I want admission, and they're open. So why is this happening? What exactly is the reason? Parents, they want to admit the child. The child is good, can learn.
Yes.
But the schools are not admitting. And there is a rule. No child can be denied admission.
Don't you think the best person to answer this question will be people who run school? They'll be the best people to answer this question.
True.
Because
I'll also tell you from the perspective of somebody who sat in a classroom and talked to preschool teachers and also in mainstream schools is so I had an experience of being a shadow teacher because I wanted to experience that side of and I was in a preschool with this particular very severe child who was on the severe side of the spectrum. And I remember the preschool teacher saying to me that we have 30 children in our classroom and as one or two to a teacher and an assistant teacher, it is a very difficult and challenging day in and day out to manage the 29 plus this child with all his needs. So given this fact, I think there are unfortunately number one is also they do not receive any kind of training in autism as part of their B.Ed course. Now things are slowly changing, but when they enter a classroom and they face with these children with these type of challenges, including children with learning difficulties, including children with ADHD, etc., entering, they are not equipped. They know the science. They know from the experience how to handle. From the limited experiences they've tried and tested and got their fingers burnt and now know different. So the managements are very cautious about letting children in when they know that there is neither the training nor the setup nor the differentiated curriculum nor any kind of different assessment methods, because you need all these pillars in place for a child to successfully go to the mainstream system. So they rather say no, which is unfortunate. The only good thing that's happening right now is the laws are slowly becoming stronger and are enforced.
And then if I want to if I want to give my take on this, and let me be empathetic here with the school management and look at it from their, though I've not run a school, but look at it from their perspective. Now, very simple. My child is in pre-primary. Let's say take the case of what Bev said, that totally hyper. Now, what happens is he goes and hits a child. So the school is responsible to answer to the parents of the neurotypical children. And many a times, even if the school is inclusive, see, the percentage is less. You have to see the majority of them are neurotypicals. Now, if there's a parental pressure from the neurotypical side that, this child is hitting me, my child came with a scratch. Now, they are responsible. With laws getting stricter for the schools as well, they have to be very cautious. That is one thing. But again, Dolly, if you see the whole thing boils down to awareness. So the awareness is not just, between us, or it's not just between the parents who have, autistic children. The awareness should come into the neurotypical society too.
Correct.
So once like you are a sensitized parent. So if, God forbid, tomorrow your girl comes with a scratch and say my autistic, and you would it might be her not a good day.
Yeah.
It might not be a good day and probably will not create a ruckus. But the school management, they have to face such things from varied parents. Right? That is one aspect. Another thing is that teachers are not trained enough. As Bev correctly pointed out, that B.Ed was not sufficient enough to train them to handle special needs. Forget autism, not even learning disability, right? But now things are changing. Now, as a teacher, when I go, I'm telling you, first time when I saw an autistic child getting trained as a special ed, it was scary. The first meltdown scared me. But I was getting trained to be a special ed. So these general ed teachers, it's not that they don't want to. They don't know how to. And also we feel that, they are scared of the children. No, their chances they're not scared of the children. They don't want to harm the child. So you see, everything boils down to the awareness. The more awareness you have, the more you tell them that, it's okay. They will have their meltdowns. And this is how it works. Even neurotypicals have their meltdowns.
Yeah, they do.
Right? So everything boils down to, the awareness, Dolly. The more aware they are, like those, some of the teachers who are accepting, probably they had a good experience and they learned their way. So, not everybody is fortunate to have such experience.
Great. So now let's delve deep a little bit into your education part.
Sure.
You need to tell us the techniques, the correct way, and how do you do special education for a child on the spectrum from scratch to a top grade thing.
Okay. From scratch, as I said, for the general ed teacher example, for anybody to work with an autistic child, the first place to go is know your child. The first place. Even if you're parent, see, thinking as a parent, we know our child. But it's not true. When you know your child, that means you have accepted your child the way he or she is. There is no correction or fixing coming from there. My child has sensory dysregulations. I accept it. This is what my child does when he's overwhelmed. My child doesn't want to write it because, he's reached a peak where he doesn't want to write anymore. So once I know my child, okay, Dolly, I know that once I know him, these are my ways of going about around him. Okay, now this is very interesting what I tell to my parents. I look my special ed as a game of kabaddi. Okay, so as little kids, we have played kabaddi. So how was kabaddi? There was a line and you say, you go there, till the time you can hold your breath, you can touch and you can come away. If you couldn't touch anybody, you go again, right? That is how I see my special ed. So I say, if my child, I'm trying to teach something, this is his current level. What I'll do is, I'll go just bit over it. I'll see how my child is responding. The sign is he getting overwhelmed? Is he getting anxious? If yes, let me go back. Let him be there. Let him reduce his anxiety. Then again I'll go. Again I'll cross that. And this small crossing overs is where, even they understand. They start. So bonding. Now, when you talk about bonding, people say, "Arey, wo to kuch bhi nahi batate." I'll tell you, there are kids who come to me, they won't even look at me and say hello. They're non-verbal. But the best part is, when they've not seen me for a while, let's say I'm out or they are unwell, I have heard this from a couple of parents that they'll just go and take their remedial bag. They'll just go and take their remedial bag and they'll do and the parent knows
That they are missing.
that they're missing. So when people say emotions, oh my God, Dolly, I see it every day in them, every day. And the more I work with them, how it happens when you work, you get tired. For me, when I work with them, I get that energy. So probably sometimes your body feels fatigued, but your mind doesn't.
Your heart is not full yet.
It's like you just enjoy being with them. So they have their different way of expressing emotion. So once you know them, you know the limit. And as I said, always their learning should be experiential learning. A word of caution, rote learning comes very easy for them. Don't be happy when they are able to remember something and write it. Always check for the application. As I said, I am a boy. Then check the application. Is Papa a boy or a girl? So always look for that generalization if your child can do it. Right? That is one place to do. Another thing I would say is focus on the quality and not the quantity. And Bev and Dolly, it feels so good when parents react. And they say, Sarika ma'am, it takes time for them. See, it's not easy.
Correct.
As a parent, Bev, if I tell you first day, don't focus on the quantity, focus on the quality, and you're like, what the heck is she talking?
Yeah.
But then when gradually you start seeing that, the child is building on the concepts, there is no rush for him, and I'm focusing on the quality of it. Then what happens at first grade, if he's expected to, do a 2-digit addition with a single number, but your child still can do 2 plus 3, but he's understanding and doing it. Don't you think gradually he will pick it up?
Correct.
Because in every addition, एक saturation level कभी ना कभी तो आता है. Till 10th we keep on doing addition and subtraction, right? So there is no rush there. But if you learn now, you make your base strong, the application will come gradually. So one of the biggest mantra is focus on the quality and not on the quantity. So once you start focusing on the quality, what happens, Dolly, here? See, a parent, it's easy for us professionals to say, but the anxiety that a parent has,
Yes.
the uncertainty of the future that they face, as professionals, we can never understand.
Correct.
So it's easier for us to say that to them. So what I tell them, that once you start focusing on the quality, I have also seen their anxiety level starts reducing. Because a typical condition, a parent, a fresh diagnosis of autism, where will he go to find the standards around in the community? So naturally, the parent starts comparing his child with the neurotypicals of his age. Now, when they see a gap, that's where the pressure begins.
Yes.
Right, Bev?
Correct.
So when you see that gap, that's where the pressure begins. So my word to the parents is, everybody, we are 3 individuals, probably roughly around the same age, got the same kind of, environment, and we picked whatever we study, but all 3 of us are doing something different. We all grew up to be somebody different. So I tell my parents that always compare your child with his performance. So let's say, if you want to see your child's growth, like for me, I have a remedial book. I keep a constant remedial book. I write the date. I write how the child did on that day. I tell them, sometimes you feel, that my child is not doing, just open your book and see. See what he was doing in the month of February versus to what he's doing in April. Wow. And when you see a book year ago, you will be celebrating. And when you start showing them, Dolly, that the competition or the comparison should be what I was,
What I am.
what the child was and what the child is now with him or her. That's where the parent starts developing that faith and trust. My child will do it. That hope is developed. So it's very important, don't compare with anybody. घर में भी अगर आपके twins भी हैं, वो भी अलग है. Even if you have twins, they are different. So few things if you just remember, because see, they are very sensitive people, autistic people. If I am anxious and I'm teaching them, Dolly, they can feel it.
Correct.
So if a parent is teaching as an agenda, ये तो खत्म करना है, you have to write this one page, they feel that anxiety. And the joy of learning is lost. And learning should be fun. You should see my children. Rhymes and stories, and they just love it, Dolly. They just love it. And that's how they even communicate many a times. They will not say hi, hello, but they will say, 5 little speckled frogs. They'll say, so that means you play 5 little speckled frog. So it's a very beautiful journey. And another thing I would like to add is, what happens? See, I'm a mother too. Though I'm a mother of a neurotypical. Now my son will turn 18. I still miss, when I look at his baby pictures, I'm like, oh, it was so cute to cuddle him and make him sit in the lap and, just be with him. And so I tell my parents and to your viewers of this show, your child is 5 years right now. He's going to be 5 years only now. He's not going to remain. Enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
And see the child first and then the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and it's not wrong, Bev, I can understand that. Unfortunately, you see the diagnosis first and then the child. And then that what happens, diagnosis तो पूरे जिंदगी रहता है. उसका age कहाँ पास हो गया ना? You forgot to enjoy that age.
True. I agree with this.
So see the child first and then the diagnosis. So it's like when I had glasses, when I couldn't see well, my child still saw me, my parents still saw me as Sarika. They provided me a glasses. I started seeing. It's the same thing. I know my child has autism, but he's my child first. And then a diagnosis.
Correct.
So enjoy I enjoy with my little ones. So, that's what I want the parents. भूल जाओ stress. वो सब करेंगे. सही base, if you give them the right foundation, the base, they will do well. But enjoy your present.
Correct.
Yeah.
So well put.
Absolutely.
I need to know your mantras as a parent. We have got a professional mantra. Now we need a parent mantra.
Okay. So, one thing that I've seen works really well for parents is because this is such a, it's a complex mindset. It has so many different sides to it. The first thing is if you get a diagnosis that your child has autism, firstly, it's not the end of the world.
True.
I mean, we live in a different age right now, where it is possible to, help the child, support the child. And we know so much now than we knew even 10 years ago.
True.
Correct.
So the first thing I feel that as a parent is take a deep breath, take your time. First, get your training. As a parent, understand as much as you can about this mindset of a condition. And how to support it. What do the terms mean? When the doctor has written their speech therapy, what exactly does a speech therapy does? When he has written OT, what does the OT stand for? Okay, who does it? What do they do? When do you introduce your child to all these? Where are they available? Ask a lot of questions. Ask to your pediatrician.
Wonderful.
Ask to Google. Ask to right now all over, since we are all on social media all the time, there are huge number of parent groups. Ask other parents, because if they have gone through the journey, why do you need to then reinvent the wheel? You take off from there, get references, etc. And when you start on your journey and you make a plan that okay, I'll take my child for this therapy, go visit the therapist, ask a lot of questions. When you are comfortable with a therapist and you have full confidence, then you have to work like your left and right hand. Complete partnership. You have to support your therapist. It is not only that you pay money and the therapist does their work. That it does not work like that.
True.
If you have even an ounce of doubt, get it cleared, because you have to completely be the support behind the therapist so that they can do their work. And it's a complete handshake, left and right hand, and also it's complete patience, because these therapies take a long time.
Slow paced.
Right now, I mean, I just last week I remember a parent sitting with me and saying, when does this get over? My husband is 47, I'm 42. We are tired. The child is stimming for hours. She's like, does it ever get over? I said, take a deep breath, have a cup of tea.
I know.
And accept it. Yes, it'll be there for a long time. They do change and do get better as they grow up. The reason is that, we give them all this education, we give them all the therapies. They also learn by observing the world around. And that's why it's so important that they be included completely in society and not kept in a house, completely shut off from the rest. So, to have the complete patience in working for them. And what I've seen is that parents of special needs are often the hardest working. They completely exhausted.
100%.
They work hard. They give me a complex, despite me being a special, because they really, really, really trying hard, because it's a matter of, I think all special parents have this fear, is that how is my child going to do in the future? How is he going to survive? He or she going to survive on their own? And they work really hard. So I always tell them, look, it is a marathon. It is not that, there's a quick fix pill and you take an injection or you go to XYZ therapist and the child is going to be completely 100% okay. There are always, it's like an onion, you peel off, you get one problem, then you peel the next face. And you have to deal with it. So take it patiently.
Great. I liked your example of honey, and it was
It's a correct way to put it together.
you can visualize
Yeah,
it,
you
right? You
visualize
just
that.
peeled off,
Yeah.
and then there's another
There is
waiting
another
for
one.
another waiting for you.
Yes.
In general, even neurotypicals.
It's exactly. It's not a different parenting.
Yeah.
It's not a
There are
different parenting.
challenges that you have at every stage.
Yeah.
I completely understand that this is more challenging. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And parents have to give in their 500% because, as you said, the therapist will do their job. The teacher will do their job. In the end, the parent has to be there all the time.
Yes, the mom management.
Yes, they have to be there all the time. With all those professionals, parents are constant.
Correct. True.
They have to work with every individual that needs to be, that is giving training to their child.
Correct.
So they are at work all the while.
Exactly. And that emphasizes the need of parental training.
Yes.
So, like, I run an autism awareness parent support group. And one thing we voice in that group very commonly is please say no to closed door therapies. See, it's like many people say that, your kids don't perform in front of you. I agree. There are, some kids who wouldn't like to perform in front of kids, in front of their parents. Have a CCTV, have a one-sided glass. The thing is, if you do not have parental training, if a child comes to me for 2 hours of remediation in a week, and I don't let my mother or my primary caregiver see how I'm teaching the child, there's no parental training, how are they going to replicate?
Correct.
And as Beverly correctly said, like whenever we start a new association, a new child, the first thing, life of a special educator, like when they come to us, which is my workplace, and we tell them that it's an association. If you are ready to work with your child, then I'm ready to work.
Correct.
So, life of a special educator, we don't take parents if they say, look, ma'am, I am busy. My auntie will come and sit. My caregiver will. See, I know it sounds very harsh that how can you deprive somebody of the remedial therapy? But see, we heard that, right? 2 hours of therapy. If you do not learn from us, the point is wasted. With the parental support, you can compound, you can increase the frequency of the work done with your child. And the results would come much more, quicker than 2 hours of therapy 1 week, then next week, then next week, then next week. So parental training, parental involvement is very important. And we also see in our cases where there is support from parent, Dolly would see the graph going beautifully up. Have you observed that, Bev, too?
Yes, absolutely. Because it gets compounded. The therapist working and the parent working. So the
It
results
goes beautifully. Wherever you see that there is some hindrance in the parental support, could be a valid reason. You see that graph not going the way it goes. So parental awareness, parental training, very important.
Because see, even if you take the parent perspective, even they have their, sometimes parents have to do the job.
Yes.
They don't have an option.
Exactly.
And then I had this parent just a few days ago. She said my office was very supportive. When I told them that, my child is on the spectrum, they gave me that time to, okay, fine, you have your child, you probably might want to go for the therapy. Okay, go, and you can then come back. So I think this kind of an environment is what is needed, inclusive, wherein they understand the situation. So they allowed her, fine, you can go, get your thing done, and then come back. So that kind of understanding is needed. Otherwise, sometimes there are, bosses who might not allow you, who might not let you. And there are parents who have to compulsorily go for their jobs.
Yes.
So they have no choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
They are the breadwinners.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and many times we see single mothers.
Correct.
Yes.
And what do they do?
What do they do?
True.
So yeah, situations and then how handling them.
It's a tough world. It's a tough world,
You have to manage.
but it's a beautiful world.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's a beautiful world.
And out of these children is where we have got Dr. Temple Grandin, from where we have got Elon Musk, from where we have got these masterminds, Einstein. They're all on the spectrum. So these are beautiful brains that, the other day I got to know even Zoom has been designed by an autistic individual. Yes.
Oh, wow.
And these are the beautiful minds that are at work. This is how they're shaping the future.
Yeah.
So yes, it's nothing that they can't do. It's just that
I don't remember who it was or who wrote that, but somebody in the autism spectrum, they've said that if there was no autism, there wouldn't have been inventions.
Correct. True.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
Because they have the ability to see differently and they see it differently.
Yes.
That's
It's
very
so
true.
beautiful the way they see it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's just
It's taken me 15 years to realize that, but it is a complete mind, and they say the mindset. It's not just what we call a disorder as we used to previously do it.
True.
Because the way they see their world is completely different. And I mean, being present in the house with somebody who's experiencing autism on a daily basis, I get shocks every day, and I keep sharing them with Sarika. He said this, so he's seeing the world completely different from the rest of us.
And the best way I think is, if we, though autism is considered as a disability, if we start looking at it as a personality type, like Dolly has a personality, Bev has a personality, Sarika has her own personality, and my autistic child has its own personality.
Yeah. True.
It's like you said, Elon Musk, right? Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
I always say this in my trainings, that put them in a spaceship, send them to Mars, and they will be considered as like the Martians would like, you don't know a language, you don't know how to communicate. They won't be considered the intelligent people they are on Earth.
Correct.
The only thing is they cannot communicate the way Martians can communicate. And that's the only reason. And Martians are in majority, right? So when Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, if they go up, like, okay, Steve Jobs is not a good example now, but Elon Musk, for example, he goes there. Unless and until he learns his way of communication over there, he will be considered as somebody who doesn't know much. And that is what I tell my parents and my teachers when I train them, that look at them. We neurotypicals are in majority. So we want the neurodiverse to learn our ways. If they were in majority, cuddling was like, don't hug me, stay away from me. Because then they are in majority. So it's just that because we are in majority, we are expecting them to behave like us.
Correct.
But let's not do that. They have their own personality. Let them be where they are. The only training that we need to do is they have to be functional. See, they have to survive with the neurotypicals. They have to learn being functional. The survival is something that we are teaching them. That doesn't mean that, we change their personality altogether.
True.
So if we start respecting that boundary, they start respecting what we are training them at.
Correct.
They feel it. They know it.
Yeah.
They very well know it. That they are respecting my boundary. Be it a 4-year-old or a teenager. They know that this particular person is respecting my boundary. And then their conversation with you changes completely.
And what kind of a message would you like to give to, there are a lot of children who are pursuing special education. So what would you like to tell them for their future? What tips would you like to give them? You as well. You have been trained in special education. So what tips would you like to give these upcoming special educators?
So I would say to these special educators, you have a lot of work on your plate. You have a lot of work. And I would say when you're working with any child as a special educator, I'll just say one thing. When you're working with a child, remember that you're not just working with one child. If you can make a difference in a single child's life, it's actually the entire family that is saved.
Correct.
So every session, every minute, every intervention is important. See, we are neurotypicals and now we are studying. We have learned how to cope. That child is coming to you and you have a responsibility of a life. Though it's not life-threatening, but it's a big responsibility.
Shaping their future.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you have to understand that it's a job of responsibility and you can't do it unless and until you have you're personally connected to them.
True. Ma'am, your take on this?
I think this is to put it in very, very simple words, it is not an easy field. It is not an easy condition to understand. It is not always easy to work with the children. It requires a specific set of skills. It requires a lot of experience, and it also involves a lot of trial and error. And you have to work through very, very patiently with a lot of grit to make a difference in that child's life. I would say to any new special educators is find your area where you are really passionate about it. You must be really passionate to stay in this field because it is a difficult field. And find out whatever you can. Keep the learning constant. It never stops when you get that certificate from the Rehabilitation Council of India that says you are a special educator. That is just the beginning.
That's just
the start. And you have to get through those years and also be part of a community of other special educators, therapists, etc. in the field, so that you can connect, you can get ideas, vent. And it just makes the journey easier. And of course, lifetime learning.
Yeah, this is one area where you cannot stop learning.
Yeah, especially with new areas like artificial intelligence and new technologies coming in. I think we have not even began to explore that completely in special education, because I feel there are a lot of ways that AI can really help these children overcome a lot of challenges that they face. So I think that is something we need to start exploring for our area of special education.
Great. And then one last question is, how does special education help in shaping the career of these children on the autism spectrum?
You want to go first, Bev?
See, all the children that I've come across or who have been on the spectrum always have their own interests and special abilities. And they're also dealing with the label of autism and the special challenges that it presents. So it takes a very special team and a special guide to then help them train in those skills that then make them valuable in the workplace. And they have every right to be there. And they do have the skills to be present in workspaces. If you look closely, every workspace, every large organization or even medium scale organization, if you look closely, will have individuals that are on the spectrum. You may have just not noticed it yet. And there are more and more people who are now who want to enter the workspace. Many students have finished with school. They're in colleges. They're just about to enter the workspace. They need support, a special kind of support there. There are very few organizations that have now come forward that not only provide the skill training, but also the support that they need in the workspace. Settling in the workplace. And that's a very good thing, because years earlier, they would just be sitting at home looking out of the window. Or, in the worst cases, in some very, very sheltered workshop, doing some job that was very menial, only because they were diagnosed with the tag. Right now, we know that even with the autism diagnosis, there is so much more that we can do. And the field of technology has really opened up for them. I feel that is really good. A really, really good area for people at various ends of the spectrum. So I know of a family whose child is on the severe end of the spectrum, who's using technology very, very well, and is just making strides into the workspace. He's now about 19 years old, 19, 20. And years earlier, we would have said, okay, just let him be at home and let him just go through life. But today, they're trying to find a space for him using computers, using technology, and he's doing his internship. So that's a good sign. Yeah.
Which is such a nice step that has been taken.
Yeah. This would not have been present even 5 years or 10 years earlier.
And to add, so see, Bev actually beautifully covered the journey of how you further take away post-education. Now, your question was special education.
Yeah, because that is the base.
Yeah.
And from there is when you get to know what the child is good at.
Exactly.
And that shapes the career.
But then, Dolly, that's what, see, the child is good at, okay? Now, not necessarily, as autism is a spectrum, okay? It's a huge spectrum. You have to look at the two extreme ends. When somebody is like what we call as highly functional, okay, some as severe, what we rate them, though I do not accept these terminologies, but for everybody's understanding, this is how it goes. Now, there are various children in the spectrum. So, I would always go back again to the childhood, right? Now, these looking for a career comes post 18, 19. What I want the new parents to not miss on is the holistic development. See, I understand we are busy with OT, we are busy with speech, we are busy with special ed. Then there is a full-time school. What misses out is what the neurotypical children get. Going for skating classes, going for swimming classes, going for dance classes. So at least pick one area which is not a therapy, but your child gets an exposure for that. Now what happens is, your child is not going to tell Mama, I want to dance. You have to give him or her that exposure. You see your child doing well, you compound on that. You say, oh, probably he's not very happy. The sound is too much for that. You move to something else like swimming. But keep on doing that.
Keep exposing them.
Keep on doing that. Once you keep on doing that, by the time they are reaching college age, even see they had a holistic development.
Yes.
So don't miss out on that. Saying ki itni therapies hai, na school hai. Many schools are very cooperative. They know if a child is in the spectrum, they have a tight schedule with therapies. They reduce the school hours for them. You write a letter and they give you that concession. They are very considerate that way. So try to use that. But also look for some hobby development in your child. Could be also cooking.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have a parent from Lucknow. It's an online consultation. And she tells me, son is a foodie, 13-year-old, still not clear. He stands and he points and tells rasam mein kya kya nahi dala.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And I told her, you are in Lucknow, you have access to the best chefs.
Yeah.
See to it that he goes into this. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
He cannot label turmeric. He cannot say jeera and raika difference. But he can tell you that this is missing and he will point out.
My gosh. That's a special ability.
This is what their special abilities are.
Yeah.
And they all have it. All of them. You just probe below the surface. Mine, his speciality is trains. There's another boy who comes to the center whose speciality is cars. And the encyclopedias on this particular area. So that's one special ability that has opened up for them, where other abilities like communication or social maybe far lesser. This one area is where they're complete geniuses.
So if it's a myth if we say all autistic children have some special gifts, okay? It's like us. Not everybody is Sachin Tendulkar or Lata Mangeshkar,
Yes.
right? So it's true with them also. In autistic children also you have Sachin Tendulkars and Lata Mangeshkars who have this, kind of thing to do. But see if you have something like that. Like I have a couple of parents, their kids are amazing at drawing. When you look at it, I keep on telling them, you please create something. I want a wall hanging in my office, in my center of your child's drawing. It's just so beautiful. And then that can be later on used as, calendars or whatnot and can be converted into a livelihood.
True.
Wow. Perfectly and beautifully put together. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here today. And it was a pleasure talking to both of you. A lot of things that we learned together today. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, it was... I didn't realize, Bev, I'm talking to you after so long, felt like,
Yeah.
There's so many aspects I could see differently today, which I had not known about you. And you're doing a great job, Dolly, you and your team. So
thank you so much.
It's been a
I
pleasure.
hope our parents and our audience are, benefited by all of this. And professionals and parents like you are the ones who can make the difference because you all are the voice.
Y'all can put forth your views and
bring in the change, the awareness in the world. We are just the medium.
A big medium though.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.